here. Now, I want you to remember when, as soon as they started talking about a hard-working member of Parliament, about this man, I was the first one to start clapping. And I tell you what, I've got good cause. I mean, this man sits on our Justice Committee. This has to be one of the busiest committees in Parliament with all the legislation. He does an outstanding job for the people of this area. Too happy to be here in this area to do anything I can to ensure that he gets re-elected. But I want to extend that thanks to him for all his work on that, for all those bills, ladies and gentlemen, because they're all in the right track. I remember when I became Justice Minister, somebody asked me, they said, so you say you're from a party that wants to get tough on crime. I said, can I correct you? I'm a member of the only party that wants to get tough on crime. From the start, this has been a priority of this government, right down the line. We said what we would do in every speech from the throne. We've taken it to the people on 3 different occasions, and ladies and gentlemen, that's exactly what we have done. Ladies and gentlemen, we have made it very clear that the role of the victim and law-abiding Canadians must be heard and must be a priority. I asked when I became Justice Minister about an ombudsman. They said, what do you mean the ombudsman for prisoners? I said, no, I mean for victims. I said, that's who. I'd like to see an ombudsman for victims, and that was one of the very first things we did in my term as Justice Minister, have a federal ombudsman for victims of crime, so that when people have issues, we have passed legislation that has taken direct aim at people who use guns in crimes. People better protecting. I'll give you an example. I was in Toronto talking to police services down there about 3 years ago, and here's what they told me. They told me that a 40-year-old guy from Texas had gotten on a plane because he had hooked up with a 14-year-old girl in Toronto. And they were telling me there was nothing the parents, the police, nobody could do. I told him, I said, if it's the only bill that we get passed in this Parliament, we are going to better protect 14 and 15-year-olds. Ladies and gentlemen, we have all kinds of pieces of legislation, all of them in the direction of helping out victims. You know, I introduced a bill a while ago that would get rid of the faint hope clause. You know what that one is? They call it the loophole for lifers. So an individual is convicted of first-degree murder can start applying after 15 years for parole. And I actually had a good question from a member of the media. He said, Mr. Nicholson, are you trying to say that somebody is not going to commit first-degree murder because you're getting rid of the faint hope clause? I said, that's not what I'm saying at all. I have no idea what would motivate somebody to commit first-degree murder, but I do know this for sure. That we will reduce victimization in this country, because you know what? The families of these murder victims, you know what they tell me? They start worrying and thinking about it when it gets to around 14 years. Start worrying whether this individual is going to be back out on the street. They tell me they're victimized over and over again, and it's not over at 15 years. Of course, it's 17 years they apply, 19 and 21 years. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as of 2 weeks ago in Canada, the bill was given royal assent to get rid of the faint hope clause. I have the families who have been victimized by multiple murderers, and they tell me the same thing, that there are no consequences for the murder of their daughter or their child or their spouse. There's no consequences because the law in Canada has been, if you get life imprisonment, everyone becomes eligible for parole after 25 years. There's no further consequences if you murder several people. Well, we changed that as well. So as of just this last week, those individuals who would do such a terrible crime, they can be eligible now for parole after 50 or 75 years. Those are steps in the right direction again. Yes. We have made in the law. A couple of years ago, I met with individuals from internet service providers, and I told them that of our concerned with respect to child pornography on the internet, and they were clear. They said, we realize that we have a moral responsibility to turn this information over to the authorities, and I said, thank you very much, and I appreciate all Canadians appreciate that, but you have to have more than a moral responsibility to do that. You have to have a legal responsibility, and the law has changed in the last couple of weeks. It's now the legal responsibility of internet service providers to turn over child pornography to the appropriate authority. This is the difference, and one of the differences that stand between us and the other three political parties. They don't share these. They continuously say, yes, but you're putting these people in jail. That costs money. I say, how about the cost to victims? How about the cost to ordinary, law-abiding Canadians? I'm going to tell you, folks, when there's crime committed in this country, they pay the greatest price. But you will never hear that from the opposition parties. But it is the truth, and I believe Canadians right across this country know it, and that's why they are responding to our agenda in the criminal justice area. And ladies and gentlemen, we have more to do. And we didn't get some of these bills passed through this Parliament, because this was an unnecessary election. And I bet Kitchener and Waterloo are hearing the same thing that I'm hearing in Niagara Falls, Fort Erie, and Niagara-on-the-Lake. They're saying, why are we having this election? And I say to them, send a message to those people who caused this election. Send a message to them, and then they'll be able to figure it out for the next 4 or 5 years, that they made a very bad mistake in doing this. Because, ladies and gentlemen, we were on the right track with respect to the economy. I had a look at that budget that Mr. Flaherty presented, and I was so pleased that it recognizes volunteer firefighters. This was something that I hope everybody would want. It's right there. That refundable tax credit. Help to seniors. Help to families who have children involved with the arts. Keeping taxes low. This is what this country wants. This is what this country needs. It's all there in that budget. But they didn't even read it. They didn't even read it. They wanted to move on. And by moving on, they didn't get some of the bills passed that I think this country needs, this country would like to have. They didn't get it done. I had a bill in the Senate. I got it through the House of Commons. It was in the Senate for third reading. All we had to do was just get it at the third reading stage. But you know what the Liberals did? They kept on talking. They kept on talking. And you know what that bill did? It created for the first time in Canada a couple of new offenses under the criminal code. That if 2 adults are conspiring with each other on the internet to lure a child, to sexually exploit a child, that would then now become a crime in Canada. That's what the bill said. It had provisions there that if you gave sexually explicit material to a minor for the purpose of grooming that child for sexual exploitation, that would be a crime in Canada. That was what was in the bill. And it addressed 16 other laws with respect to child sexual exploitation, but the Liberals, knowing that they were going to defeat us in the House, kept talking in the Senate so that that bill would disappear. But I'm going to tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. When we form a government, again, after May 2nd, these are going to continue to be priorities. Those priorities in the budget. We love this country. We are dedicated to doing what is right for Canada. All of you who are here volunteering, you've lived lives contributing to this nation, making this world a better place. And I am absolutely convinced that the step in the right direction for all of us is to make sure Stephen Harper has that representation, has that majority government. That's what Canada deserves, and Canada is admired by everyone in the world. We all have a stake in this. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm asking you to take that extra step, put that extra effort in to get these men elected here in this particular area. We need them, Ontario needs them, Canada needs them, and I know that you need them. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Let's do what we can.